all this, of course, will seem like nonsense to somebody taking the transfer window very, very serious indeed. That's Ben Jacobs, talkSPORT's transfer. I'm going to call him Czar. I think that's best.
Why not?
Hello, Ben. How are you?
Czar, guru, call me what you like.
Oh,
Good
wow,
afternoon.
that's nice.
Well, you just got here, reporter. I mean, goodness, you're not just stood around, are you? You know, you're digging these things out. Now, with my
Danny, ask him.
With
Put
my
your
Spurs hat on, how many more days is it going to take Spurs to extricate poor Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace? It seems like it's been about 100 so far.
How many more hours or minutes might be the pertinent question, because our understanding exclusively on talkSPORT is that Tottenham today have reached a verbal agreement with Crystal Palace for Eberechi Eze. Few small details remaining. One is the fact that Crystal Palace is still seeking a replacement, and two is obviously that they're preparing for a game in the UEFA Conference League, and Oliver Glasner said that Eze would be a part of that. So I sense there's two aspects to this. The club-to-club, which verbally is done, players agreed terms, but then don't forget that replacement aspect as well, because having the full deal doesn't mean you can just go and do a medical unless Crystal Palace get another one through the door. And they're negotiating with Leicester City's Bilal Al-Khanous. He's not the only target, but that's what's made this a little bit complicated, because Crystal Palace almost had the agreement with Tottenham in place and done before their Premier League opener, that 0-0 draw against Leicester. But naturally, again, if they can't get another attacking midfielder in, then there's a fair chance that Eze keeps playing. But Tottenham are confident that this one is now going to get done imminently.
My friend James Gill, who's a comedian and a very funny man and a Crystal Palace fan, is gutted about this, Ben and Danny, because he says, I don't mind if my wife leaves me for Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But she's leaving me for Tony next door. Which I'm not expecting you to answer here, Danny, but
I'm livid.
But you're livid. But I suppose it's the Champions League that has got him.
No, it's Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Oh, is it Spurs? Is it, Danny?
With their history, their stadium, their fans, a third of a million of which you saw in the streets of North London not so very long ago.
Okay, you believe the hype. It's fine.
Listen, will Crystal Palace let Eze and Mark Guehi go in the same transfer window, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. The ramifications are probably more on Adam Wharton or Mateta even, but Crystal Palace want to sell Mark Guehi. Make no mistake about that, even though we hear some reports that there's a haggling between Liverpool and Crystal Palace. Steve Parish and Richard Hughes have got an excellent relationship, and I think that if Guehi decides he doesn't want to play every week for Crystal Palace and decide his future as a free transfer after the World Cup, then eventually with that full player buy-in to move now into a more competitive Liverpool team, an agreement can be reached between Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Palace have started at 50 million at the beginning of the window, 45 in the middle of the window. Now their asking price is close to 40. Liverpool want to do the deal much closer to 30, but there's not a massive gulf in valuation. It's all just going to come down to whether or not Guehi actually wants to go now, knowing that he might be guaranteed less minutes in a World Cup year. Talks are ongoing between Liverpool and Crystal Palace, and Palace are prepared to sanction an Eze and a Guehi exit, but if both go, then I don't see many others exiting between now and when the window shuts.
Brentford were, I thought, dreadful at the weekend and looked like relegation fodder at the moment. Could have done with Yoane Wissa, but looks like he'll never play for Brentford again. Where do you think he's going, Ben?
Well, I think Yoane Wissa is looking to join Newcastle United, and he's trying and forcing that move. But the reality is very different because he's contracted at Brentford. They've set a very high asking price, and Dango Ouattara coming in is seen as a Brian Mbeumo replacement. So Brentford's perspective is they need another number 9, or alternatively, there has to be a fee in the region of 60 million, which is a huge number for a player that's 28 years of age and has only got 1 year left on his contract plus a club option of a further year. But Wissa yesterday deleted all of his Brentford social media. He changed his profile picture on Instagram to a black circle. And all of this is clearly a message from Wissa that he wants this probably once in a career opportunity to go and play Champions League football with Newcastle. I think we're going to get clarity in the next 24, 48 hours. Newcastle are either going to come to the table with a bid and it's going to get done, or they're going to give up because time is running out, and then Wissa might have to start to reintegrate knowing that his only option might be Brentford due to the fact that at the moment, Keith Andrews and the Brentford hierarchy simply don't want to sell. So it's obviously got parallels with the Alexander Isak situation, and we'll have to wait and see now whether club power or player power wins.
I have a bit of slightly theory on this, that Thomas Frank is exceptional at coaching forwards, and which is great news for Spurs, Danny, and then maybe they'll go away and they won't be quite as good, but it's great news for Spurs because I think he's going to get a tune out of all yours.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brentford have done brilliant in the last few years. How much of that is down to the fantastic recruitment, how much is down to the coach, but you're absolutely right. They look like if they don't make a great start, then things could be a real problem for them. One or two players, a Premier League great, Jamie Vardy, still without a club, Ben, and Donnarumma, a current great and world great, still with no obvious way out of Paris Saint-Germain. What's going to happen in those two situations?
Yeah, Donnarumma and PSG are done in PSG's eyes, but time is running out and PSG want something in the region of £40 million for the goalkeeper, so important in their Champions League win last season. And yet, Lucas Chevalier's come in and he's suddenly the number 2 at the football club. So I think the price will drop for Donnarumma in the final 2 weeks or so of the window, and he will exit. If Ederson goes to Galatasaray, Donnarumma's likely to join Man City. If Ederson stays, then Donnarumma's going to have to find another club very quickly. We're told by sources Man United and Chelsea are not in the race. Donnarumma would like to move to the Premier League. So it looks like he's going all in the hope that Manchester City do sell Ederson, and then in likelihood he'll be the number 1 goalkeeper at Manchester City.
I suppose, though, Ben, that the Galatasaray thing, Donnarumma's massive wages is less of a problem because of the tax breaks for foreign players in Turkey. So that I think that brings that into the possibilities as well.
Yeah, the player terms are not a problem. I'm told Ederson is very open to Galatasaray. It's more about can they agree a fee with Manchester City. I think the original offer was only around 10 or 50 million euros and Manchester City want a bit higher. But what I also think is that the Ederson potential exit is being delayed and Galatasaray are waiting whilst Manchester City hold talks with Donnarumma and PSG. And if they've got confidence that Donnarumma can be agreed and for far less than 40 million, then they may well still sanction that Ederson exit between now and the end of the window.
Okay, well, listen, Ben, I know that all your work gets poured into the transfer blog at talksport.com, which I've now got open on my phone for news that Eberechi Eze is actually going to be a Spurs player, please God, sometime in the near future. No disrespect to Crystal Palace, but Charlie, there is a difference between the two clubs, whatever your mate says. The first hour of the show has flown by. If you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed doing it, then you're having a blast. More to come very, very soon here on talkSPORT.
Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.